Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So, what we're going to focus on today in this video is the fence modification that I made for my Grizzly table saw. This is mainly making the hook part that goes on the back of the fence, and I'm going to go through the process as best I can. I had to leave a lot of the failures out. I had some things that didn't work, and I just can't include all of that. I'm limited to 15 minutes on the videos right now. So I'm trying to squeeze as much as I can into it. I've got 5 or 6 hours of footage that I'm trying to squeeze down into just a couple videos. Once I get these done, I'll get back to the more general stuff. I'm going to try to start working on my cabinet doors. I know I've been talking about that for a while, and I'm trying to get back to that. So at the end of this video, there is a diagram that I did on SketchUp of the hook that I'm making, and you can use that for some general dimensions. I'm not going to guarantee that all of that stuff fits perfectly. This is just what I did, and you can use that as a starting point. So if you stick around for that, you can check out that. And then if you have any questions, put them in the comments, and maybe I can answer any technical questions you have. And I will try to put maybe some technical info down there as well. So enjoy.
Okay, so this is our fence as it came with the original support for the rear of the fence. That's this bolt. It's kind of an L-shaped bolt with a bearing mounted on the shorter part of the L. You can see that that bearing doesn't fit that bolt very well. It's got some slop, it moves around, it's machined crooked. And if you look at it, the bearing actually fits better on the other part of the bolt shaft. You can see it's a little crooked. It's kind of hard to tell in the video, but it's not straight. And you can see here, it fits that bolt really well. Well, you could see if I could focus the camera. There we go. See, that's a lot tighter. And I believe that's a 6mm bolt. So that's what I ended up using to support the bearing. I got a different bolt that was that size, and I tapped a hole into the hook that I'm making, and I ran that bolt in, and I used the nuts from the original one. That's just a scrap of 3" by 3" 1/4" thick mild steel angle. But that formed the sort of the backbone of this hook. But I have to cut it to length so that it fits between these two little notches. This coupler actually fits in that channel and allows that rod, so I have something to connect from the front of the fence to the back of the fence. And the coupler kind of acts as a guide. The original idea was to attach this to a coupler. That idea did not work out. It was really difficult to weld. A lot of these parts just came from the hardware store. I had some different bumpers I thought about using. This is a nylon foot, like an adjustable foot for the leg of a table or a chair. These bumpers are just little door stops they have a hole in the middle, which allowed me to put a bolt through. I believe the bolt was a 1032 bolt. And then I could screw that in, and that pushes against the back of the rail. These little black ones I had, they're soft, which I like, but they fit in these holes. So they're not going to work. That's why I ended up going with the little white bumper. These are other little nylon bolts, also 1032 thread type. That's a little bronze bushing that fits around the all thread, and that will go in the front of the fence after I drill a hole in there to help guide that through. Got a length mark, cut that to length. And after I have it cut, I want to clean this part up so that I want it to move smoothly through the fence. You can do this with a grinder, you can do it with a flap wheel. There are a lot of different ways. When I'm trying to get something flat and true, I like to finish it with the file. it's very hard to do things with an angle grinder and not round things over too much. So this is one of those parts where it takes some patience, but that's kind of what I like to remind people is patience will go a long way to help you get good results when you're trying to build things. So once we get this guy all cleaned up, we can test it and make sure that it fits in there. And it does. But it has to fit between those two tabs there. And so that means I have to cut 2 slots in this part. I'm going to use the angle grinder to cut those. And right now what I'm doing is marking the depth of those slots so that I know how deep to cut with the angle grinder. Overall, these slots end up being, I believe, an 1/8 inch of a gap, which is a little wider than the angle grinder will cut. So I widen it as best I can with the grinder, being careful to not put too much side load on a cutoff wheel. If you do that, there's a good chance it will explode in your face. So don't do that. I'm very gentle with it. You try to cut with the edge as much as possible. Once I'm done, I use a file to clean the slots out. And you just have to get an appropriate sized file. Like I said, I think this is an 1/8 inch notch when it's all said and done. And I go through that and I'm able to square the channels up. I kind of like to make it look as neat as possible. And usually that will help the function and help it operate a little bit more smoothly. So once I get these slots cut, we'll take this thing and test it and make sure it fits. I'm trying to make sure that the depth from slot to slot is a little bit smaller than the space between the 2 tabs on the fence. That's what it looks like cut. I didn't cut it very neatly. One side's deeper than the other, but it's art, right? So it does fit in there and move, but as you can see, there's some play in it. So I'm going to position these little nylon bolts, and that'll allow me to put a little bit of pressure in that slot and keep this part so it's not rattling around in there. I don't want it so tight that it won't move, but I want to make up the slop because the 1/4 inch plate fits in that groove, which is closer to 5/16 of an inch tall, but not quite. So I've got these little bolts. I believe those are 1032 bolts. So I'm marking this piece of angle iron for those locations. I'm hoping to weld that coupler on there, but instead I'm going to have to weld on a piece that has the thread in it and then file it down to shape. Also, that lever I was just using for a cam didn't work out either, but we'll get to that in the next video. So that holds it up. That rests on top of the rail. The bumper pushes on the back of the rail and the nylon bolt hooks underneath. I'm going to weld a little piece on there that will hold that foot. This is not the foot I ended up using. I used the smaller one. Mainly because it took up too much room. Now let's mark where the holes go. This is a little spring-loaded punch, but this one, for whatever reason, isn't working all that well. The spring is kind of a dud. Fortunately, I've got another one. I think I'll grab that one instead and give it a try. Oh yeah, the power. Oh, there it goes. Oh yeah, that's way better. All right, we got those marked out. We're going to take them over to the drill press And we're going to get these holes drilled plus the other ones. I'm not going to show you all of that, but like I said, it's a little, we're kind of tight on time to show all of these steps because this took me a considerable amount of time to build. And what you're trying to do is size the drill bit for the tap that you're drilling for. And that number will be on the tap. If you buy a tap, it will give you a size, and it's a single number, like 1 through 29. Or I don't know how high it goes, but I believe the smaller number is the bigger bit. And you want to use the right size bit because it will really save you breaking taps. Also, I normally don't drill with a drill press without the work being clamped down because it can be a little bit risky if that thing starts spinning around. This is a small enough bit, I wasn't afraid of it throwing it anywhere. Now, this is just a sample of what I'm doing when I'm tapping the hole. This piece is actually the piece that goes at the bottom of the hook that holds up the little 1/4-20 bolt at the bottom. But it's the same process for all of these. And typically I'm going clockwise for a half a turn or a full turn, and then I back it up a 1/4 turn or a half a turn so that you're breaking some of those pieces loose, and that can help keep you from binding up the tap and breaking the tap or stripping out the threads. A little bit of oil helps. WD-40 works in a pinch. And then I'm usually wiping this stuff down to get the oils off of there. It's helpful to get it clean before you weld anything together. And now this piece, I'll kind of show you how this will go together. Because this piece will hold the little, this is, again, that's a 1/4-20 nylon bolt. And this is going to weld on to the bottom of this bracket. And I'm trying to space it so that it's not any bigger than it needs to be, but I need 1 inch of clearance in there for that back rail. So I'm going to position that and weld that on. And then these are the parts at the top. Instead of the coupler, these are like a cabinet pin that you drill into a cabinet for putting cabinet boxes together. It's a 1/4-20 thread. This will fit my all thread. But if I put these together and tack them together, one post will be able to go down into that hook that I'm making, and the other part I will grind and file down until it fits in that channel that the coupler fits in. This is not the best way to go about this. This is just what I happen to have available, and this is what I did. And it worked. If you have a milling machine, you could make these parts. I don't happen to have that, but I would love to someday. After I've welded this, I'm trying to run the tap through there. I had a little bit of anti-spatter spray on the bolt to keep it from sticking, but these walls are so thin that with the MIG welder, it's hard not to go through it. So I'm making sure I can keep that clean. Now this drawing shows all of the hole locations. C is the critical one that will position that bearing. If you have any questions, put it in the comments and I can try to give you some of the technical details.
All right, so that's part 1 of the fence video, and I'll try to get that next one out as quickly as I can, and I hope that was helpful, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hope you can join me next time. Take care.